She didn't like that. So, but she was instructed to beat up Zakiya by Abdul Malik. She was instructed. The little yellow lady from San Francisco State had a degree in something or other. Khadijah was instructed to attack her, to cause something or other in the school. It was something they had going on in Oakland. And she was doing something with somebody, and somebody was against the policy. So Khadijah, under Abdul Malik's instruction, beat her up. Right? So Khadijah, this ain't nothing new about Khadijah and Mukhtar. I told Abdul Malik and I told Tufel right out there in the backyard when a girl got loose. You could turn the heat up just a little bit. I said, look here. I said, let me handle all. We just had a disturbance. I said, you just run everything through me. I came up here and that was Mukhtar. As soon as we sat down, he opened up his version of what's going on. And they had just heard that I said, don't nobody say nothing about that but me, because I have the skills to handle that. Anyway, so that's when I looked around at everybody here. I said, I'm being sabotaged here. I said, everybody here is, but I didn't move right away. It was 2005 before I made the CDs on snitches and all of that, and that Oakland is, what did I call it? I'll call the name of it. In other words, that everything is shifted through Oakland.
Clearinghouse.
Clearinghouse, that's it. I said Oakland is a clearinghouse, which it was at that time. Now they start getting to smell it. Here's why the things happen the way they happen. I realized way before I came here, which was 30 years ago, good God Almighty. Now what I said was, if I can last 5 years here, I'm gonna get the whole game. When I came here, I already had basically the game. But here's what I said. If I come here and I can last 5 years, because I looked at DC, what they was doing, I said, boy, this boy here is deep. So I'm coming here specifically, not only because it's a capital, but it's the center. New York is not the center of Islam anymore. Other places not. The center is DC. The center is DC because of the schools, the setup, and everything here. So when I came here with the idea. The idea for right now was beginning to gel and formulate. That was in '89. But it was way up in the 90s. Here's what I'll call it. It's been an evolutionary process. An evolutionary process. You always have hope. You always feel we're going to be successful. All of that, all the time. But the exact picture is not clear yet. The exact picture is not clear yet, but there are some things we know. If we want to progress and get above infiltration, sabotage, and leave, which we had been through that about 3 times in Oakland already, then what do we have to do? Now, this is when Abdul Malik comes in. In '87, he brought Sister Bahia there for certain reasons, and that was '87. He brought her there to marry me. That's what he brought her there for. She was working, she was pretending to be married to a guy that was a captain in the army, but he was a running man for Stokely Carmichael, Kwame Ture. How he was in the army doing that, I don't know. All African Revolutionary People's Party, whatever they was. So he convinced her, this is where it's at. This is the future. You get hit on this, you're in the future. That's the past. Technically, he was right. The little matchmaker was right. Abdul Malik, which that's what we call that nickname, the little matchmaker. He was always matching stuff up. And he didn't know it didn't work till later on when it all fell apart. But in the meantime, we gotta let him know that he's the matchmaker. We almost make him forget that we called him a snitch and a tattletale in '87. And we said to him these words, you go on and tell the white man what you tell him, but on the side, just help us out a little bit. He became the emir. Under that, what did we have to do? In order for us to be physically where we are now or where we was 10 years ago, we had to help or make everybody think that what they are doing is working. Abdul Malik was convinced that I was a figurehead. I convinced him that I was a figurehead. I would even go into some old slow Jeffin stuff. Yeah, I mean, this old Southern game, man, shoot. They believe light-skinned, pointed futures, which is them, of course, that's what's happening. Round-futured, big nose, big lip niggas, black niggas, they're not smart. They believe it. They believe it. Them niggas believe it. They believe it. If you watch them, if you look at them, you can see. Or they used to believe it. They made my job easy. So I had to pretend. I did pretend for years. And look what they did. They built up, have you ever heard of MSA West? MSA West. They built, MSA West was challenging MSA for, at Berkeley they had a program, MSA West, and the MSA guy came to speak to the president. He was mad at me. He was frowned up at me because they made him think that I was behind all that. MSA West. Now look what, we had two, a Shia center in LA, a Sunni crew, we had San Diego, we had, hey look, all rolling. Now we didn't own those, but we had them rolling. Why? Because they're in charge. They're calling all the shots. Imam Musa is a figurehead, right? In 2007 and 2008, I was tired of that role. I said, well, no, this is what's happening. As soon as that's happening, Abdul Malik wrote his resignation. I don't know if y'all have seen it. I got it around there somewhere. He wrote his resignation, and he told everybody Imam Musa fired me. He said, fired him. I said, he said, put his resignation in. How could I fire him? That was 2008. In fact, it was April. But what's then happened? They had to immediately begin to break down the whole show. Because Abdul Malik was controlling the show. San Diego, folded up. 2 shots in LA, folded up. Everything else we was doing, everywhere else, folded up, except here in Oakland. But in the meantime, in Oakland, we done got them to start a school, and to buy the property across the street. Here, we got 8 pieces of property here. Because we would pretend to be asleep. Remember Abdul-Jalil next door? He was the head of security. Did he ever secure anything? You think? That boy's tummy was out. The more you talk about security, I give you an idea about DC. Just look right around here. I built this house on the end for Kareem and them. 2 days before it was finished, they left, went somewhere else. Right there. The annex, that's not a bad building back there. You know, black carpet, everything. Black is carpet you have for studios. That's a Masjid al-Islam news. That's the Muhafiz. As soon as I finish that, whoosh, he's up and gone around the corner. The bookstore, S&H, S&F, Sakina and Fatima's. Breakfasts for everybody, that's okay, forget it. Even the little gym. Nobody ever uses it but me, and a few times you might go somewhere. Everything here was built personally by me. Not bad. But that place now probably waterlogged, probably the tarpaulin on top, the soap with everything in there, it probably would fall apart, you walk in there. The other place is okay. All the oil, remember them cans of oil I used to have in there? That was gallons of oil. I know who strolled in there and took it all. It don't take no brains to figure out who left here, where did they go, and they knew where everything was. They just strolled in when I was in California and loaded it up and took it on off. This is just my opinion. Anyway, but you never see nobody going off. Why? Because we're coming out way better. We're ahead of the game. If we would have stopped anybody at any point along the way, we wouldn't have the picture that we have today. If we tell people that Abdul-Jalil was in the paper talking about the guard, something other they were saying, I said that man was the police. The only people who went to his trial was Muhafiz and the other Negroes. I told him, we ain't on his trial. He's a police, a real police. He's a snitch. And he acted like one. Plus he lied. He lied so bad. He would lie, I was in the Marines. I was in the Army. Was you in the Marines or the Army? I was in both. I first was in it. Oh, that's no problem. He used to lie so bad that I used to, so he told me something about prize fight. I told him, yeah, I was a heavyweight champion when I was 14. He lied so bad, I said, hell, I might as well just, you know what I mean? Hey, man. He lied so. Everything we have now is exactly what we was working on. The fine pictures of it started developing 5, 10 years ago. You can see it. So, By the time this stuff started happening in California, let's say 5 years ago, I went to South Africa and gave a talk. I don't know if you ever seen it on the thing. I gave a talk on drugs. And I went all over South Africa. And I was telling them, yeah, I was a major drug dealer. I said, and your problems that you have now, your main problem is drugs. The next problem is AIDS. I said, your drug problem, you can't solve any human problem as long as you got a drug problem. It won't allow it. The war in Vietnam took all the money away from the Great Society, right? So the war on drugs, 50-year-old, 60-year-old war. Where's the victory? Not a victory. You see people, Escobar, the Zetas and all of them, they go to jail. But the drugs never stop. Why? The United States government infiltrate all groups, all of them, with lawyers and everything else they need. That's why whenever they get ready, they bring them all down. It don't make no difference. The same way they did us, same way they do them. That's a policy of Western imperialism. You build up a guy, make him big and important. At one time, Pablo Escobar was the biggest thing. He told Colombia, I'll pay your international debt, $4.5 billion, if you go against this integration, this treaty with the United States. They set him up with bombings and killings and everything. And then finally, they killed